Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new session of photosynthesis in higher plants, part 1. So, let us start this session with an introduction to the photosynthesis. So, what we understand by the photosynthesis, first of all. So, all animals, including the human beings, depends on the plants for their food. We all know that the plants are there to synthesize the food. Okay, all the green parts of the plants that are having this chloroplast, they are concerned for the process of photosynthesis. So all the green plants are making the food, right? So all animals, including the human beings, depends upon the plants for their food. And if we talk about the animals, okay, and talk about the humans, then they are depends upon the plants for their food. And have you ever wondered from where the plants get their food? How the plants are getting their food? So, actually, the plants are synthesizing their food. They are not getting food from somewhere, they are synthesizing their foods. So, green plants, in fact, have to make or rather synthesize the food they need, and all the other organisms depend on them for their needs. Okay, so the green plants there to make, or they can rather synthesize their food, and they need all the other organisms. Okay, and all the other organisms are dependent on these green plants for their food. Not only the food, there are so many things that the plants provide to the animals as well as the human beings, right? So in that respect, the plants are very, very useful, right? All green plants carry out photosynthesis, a physiochemical process by which they use light energy to drive the synthesis of organic compound. Okay, so all the green plants, they carry out the process of photosynthesis. And you all know that this photosynthesis is a physiochemical process. It means that it is having some physical as well as the chemical process. Okay, so this whole photosynthesis, we can say that it is a physiochemical process by which they use light energy to drive the synthesis of organic compound. And here what they do, they use the light energy, they takes the light energy and drive the synthesis of organic compound, and they make use of this light energy in the process of forming the organic compound via process of photosynthesis. So through process of photosynthesis, this light energy is converted to the organic compound, you can say a chemical compound. Ultimately, all living forms on the earth depends on sunlight for energy. Okay, so all the living forms on the earth, it depend on sunlight for energy. We also depends on the sunlight for the energy, because the plant is making food with the help of the sunlight, right? And that food we are taking from the plants, so indirectly we are dependent upon the sunlight, right? The use of energy from the sunlight by the plants doing the photosynthesis is the basis of life on the earth. Okay, so this energy from that is coming from the sunlight, the form of energy that is coming from the sunlight. Okay, and they are taken by the plants during the process of photosynthesis, and that is the basis of life on the earth. Okay, that is the basis of life on the earth. Because if there is no food, if there is no green plants, then there is no one to provide the food. So this process of photosynthesis is coming from green plants only. It is happening in the green plants only. So that becomes the basis of the life on the earth. Photosynthesis is important due to the two reasons. Okay, photosynthesis is very important because of the two following reasons. It is a primary source of all the foods on the earth, right? So if there is no process of photosynthesis, then how this food is going to be synthesized, right? So it is a primary source of all the foods on the earth. It is also responsible for the release of oxygen into the atmosphere by the green plant. So here the green plants, okay, the green plants are there to that are responsible for the release of oxygen into the atmosphere, right? So They take this carbon dioxide in the process of photosynthesis. They take the carbon dioxide, they absorb the water, right? And these are the two raw material that is used to make the food material, or you can say the chemical energy. And in this process, in this whole process, there is a release of oxygen, and here the oxygen is a waste material, or you can say the byproduct, not the waste but as a byproduct. Okay, so this oxygen is coming out from the process of photosynthesis. So photosynthesis not only giving you the food but also the oxygen, and you all know how the oxygen is important for us. So have you ever thought what would happen if there were no oxygen to breathe? Okay, have you ever thought that if there is no oxygen, then we are going to breathe in or breathe out, right? So, in this chapter focuses on the structure of the photosynthetic machinery and the various reactions that transform the light energy into the chemical energy. So, in this particular chapter, we are going to study about the structure of the photosynthetic machinery. There is a machinery. Okay, there is a machinery that is called as a photosynthetic machinery. Okay, photosynthetic machinery. And there in this photosynthetic machinery, there are various reaction that transforms the light energy into chemical energy. The light energy is converted into the chemical energy. So the study of this particular, you can say, the photosynthetic machinery becomes very important, and then only you are going to understand what are the certain reactions that taking place inside this particular machinery, or you can say the organelles. So let us try to find out what we already know about the photosynthesis. Some simple experiment you may have done in the earlier classes have shown that chlorophyll, green pigments of the leaf, light, and the carbon dioxide are required for the photosynthesis to occur. Okay, so we have already done some of the experiment related to the photosynthesis in our lower classes, and among them one is that very important that shows that chlorophyll is the pigment that is found in the chloroplast. Okay, and chloroplasts are present wherever the green parts of the plant is there. So the green parts of the plant, it means that it is having the chloroplast, an organelle that is called as chloroplast. And in that particular organelle, this chlorophyll is there, green pigment of the leaf, right? So, with the help of simple experiment, uh, we may have done in the earlier classes also, it has shown that chlorophyll, okay, the light, that is the sunlight, and carbon dioxide, very important, carbon dioxide are required for the photosynthesis to occur. If we want to have this photosynthesis, then these are the things are very important: carbon dioxide, light, and the presence of chlorophyll. One more important thing is must be there, that is the water. Okay, so water and the carbon dioxide are the raw material that are used in the process of photosynthesis, whereas the presence of light and chlorophyll is the other important things that must be there. So you may have carried out the experiment to look for starch formation in two leaves, a variegated leaves or a leaf that have partially covered with the black paper and exposed to light. So you can take the variegated leaves to perform this particular function, and you can cover this variegated leaves partially with partially covered with the black paper and exposed to light. So, on testing these leaves, the presence of starch, it was clear that the photosynthesis occur only in the green parts of the leaf in the presence of light. Okay, so when you take the variegated leaves and you go for the test for the photosynthesis, that at which particular part the photosynthesis has been taken place, then you see that the green parts, okay, the green parts of the variegated leaf is showing the process of photosynthesis, because while testing it with the iodine solution, we find that the starch is only present in the green parts of the plant, not the yellow yellow or any other white color parts of the plant, right? And if you take a green leaf and cover it with the black paper, right, so that only a part of the leaf that could get exposed to the sunlight, and the one that is get covered with the black paper should not get the light. So another experiment you may have carried out where a part of the leaf is enclosed in a test tube containing some KOH solution. So you can do one more experiment, that you can take a test tube and put a leaf in the test tube, and the test tube must be containing the KOH solution. Okay, KOH soaked cotton you can keep there. So what it will do, it will take all the carbon dioxide that is present in the test tube. Okay, and the carbon dioxide will not get by this part of the leaf that is inside the test tube. The part of the leaf that is inside the test tube will not get any carbon dioxide, because inside the test tube there is a KOH solution that absorbs all the carbon dioxide which is present. But the part of the leaf which is outside this tube is getting carbon dioxide, so it can do the process of photosynthesis, while the other half is exposed to air. This setup then placed in the sunlight for some time. You can keep this setup in the sunlight. So what you observe on testing for the presence of stars later in the two parts of the leaf, you must have found that the exposed part of the leaf tested positive. Okay, you find that the part of the leaf that is exposed, okay, that is exposed and that is getting the carbon dioxide, they can do the process of photosynthesis. But the part of the leaf which is present inside the test tube having the KOH solution will not get the carbon dioxide, and it will show the negative test for the starch. Okay, negative test for the starch. So this showed that the carbon dioxide was required for the process of photosynthesis. Okay, so can you explain how this conclusion could be drawn? Because the carbon dioxide is not getting by the part that is inside the test tube. So you know that carbon dioxide is the raw material for the process of photosynthesis, and that carbon dioxide is not available there for that particular part of the leaf. And the part of the leaf that is present outside the test tube, it is having the carbon dioxide, is getting the carbon dioxide, so it can do the process of photosynthesis. But the part of the leaf that is present inside the test tube cannot go for the process of photosynthesis because of unavailability of the carbon dioxide, so it will give the negative test. Now, it is interesting to learn about those simple experiments that led to a gradual development in our understanding of photosynthesis. Okay, Joseph Priestley, 1733 to 1804, in 1770, performed a series of experiments that revealed the essential role of air in the growth of green plants. Okay, so here the Joseph Priestley with his experiment has shows that this how the air is very very important for the growth of the plant. Why the air is important for the growth of the green plant? Priestley, you may recall, discovered oxygen in 1774. If you remember, in 1774, Priestley was the scientist who discovered oxygen that is present in the air. Priestley observed that the candle burning in a closed space, a bell jar, soon get extinguished. So here you can see Priestley have taken a bell jar, he placed a mouse in it and the burning candle. So you all know that the burning of the candle required oxygen. So the oxygen is taken by this candle. Okay, and after some time you see that all the oxygen that is present there is taken up by the burning of the candle. And in that what will happen? The mice would die, right? Because there is no oxygen is left there. Now you put us another setup. What you do here, you keep a plant, a potted plant here, a burning candle and a mouse. What you see here, after some time also the candle is still burning, the mouse is still alive there. So how it is occurring? So we all know that during the process of photosynthesis, the this carbon dioxide that is produced by the burning of the candle and the breathing process of this mice releases the carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide is taken by the that carbon dioxide is taken by the green plants. Okay, this green plants will take that all carbon dioxide, and what will happen? The the plant will release oxygen. Okay, the plant will release the oxygen by the process of photosynthesis. So this burning of the candle that require the oxygen, this mice is also require the oxygen that will they will get by the process of photosynthesis here. And they will what they are releasing, that is the carbon dioxide, is taken up by these green plants for the process of photosynthesis. Now, similarly, a mouse would soon suffocate in a closed space. So he concluded that a burning candle or an animal that breathed the air both somehow damaged the air. Okay, they are damaging the air, they are releasing the carbon dioxide. But when he placed a mint plant in the same bell jar, he found that the mouse stayed alive and the candle continued to burn. So, how this is occurring? This is occurring because the mint plant is releasing. Okay, the mill plant is releasing oxygen. The mint plant is releasing the oxygen, right? They releases the oxygen. So what will happen? Hmm? They releases the oxygen, and that oxygen is taken by the green plants. That is taken by the burning of the candle and the mice. So Priestley hypothesized as follows: plant restore to the air whatever the breathing animals and burning candles remove. So, can you imagine how Priestley would have conducted the experiment using the candle and a plant? Remember, he would not need a rekindle the candle to test whether the burns after a few days. So, how many different ways you can think of the light the candle without disturbing the setup, and using the similar setup as the one used by the Priestley, but by placing it in the dark and once in the sunlight. So there are so many different ways to this get uh, done by this experiment, one which has been shown here, right? So we can do this, right? Jan Ignehaus showed that the sunlight is essential to the plant process that somehow purifies the air fouled by the burning candles on the breathing animals. And Ignehaus, in an elegant experiment with an aquatic plant, shows that in bright sunlight, the small bubbles were formed around the green parts, while the dark they did not. So Ignehaus has taken some of the green plant, the aquatic plants, and he passes the monochromatic light on it. So he says that when the plant get this sunlight, they releases small bubbles out of it. And that bubbles is, if you collect that bubble and put a lighted splinter to it, so it will burn with a glowing flame. And this shows that it is an oxygen, right? And if he keeps this particular whole setup, when he keep this whole setup in the sunlight, he saw the bubble. But if he keep this whole setup in the dark, it means the no light is given to this setup. Then what he observe, he sees that there is no bubbles coming out, no bubbles is coming out. So it means that the sunlight is very very important, okay, for the process of photosynthesis. Later he identified these bubble to be oxygen. So hence he showed that it is the only green parts of the plant that could release oxygen. So oxygen is coming by this green plant only. It was not until about 1854 that the Julius von Sachs provided evidence for the production of glucose when plants grow. Glucose is usually stored as a starch. Okay, so the Julius von Sachs shows the evidence that there is a production of glucose when plants grow, and glucose is actually produced in the process of photosynthesis, but it gets stored in the form of starch. His latest study shows that the green substances in plant, that is the chlorophyll as we know it now, is located in a special bodies that is called as chloroplast within the plant cell. Okay, so Julius von Sachs is also shows that the chlorophyll is found where? Chlorophyll is found in the chloroplast. He found that the green parts in the plant is where the glucose is made, and that the glucose is usually stored as starch. He also said that in the process of photosynthesis, okay, the green plants can make the food in the form of glucose, and these glucose molecules is later stored in the plant in the form of starch. Now consider the interesting experiment done by the T.W. Engelmann 1843 to 1909. Using a prism, he split light into the 7 spectral component and then illuminated a green alga that is called as cladophora and placed a suspension of aerobic bacteria. The bacteria were used to detect the site of O2 evolution, right? So what he did, Engelmann has taken a prism and he split the light into the 7 component, okay, that has been depend upon the type of the wavelength they are having. Okay, so 7 spectral component it has been given out, and this is illuminated to a green alga that is called as cladophora. Okay, and this is having this aerobic bacteria. This cladophora is the aerobic bacteria. So the bacteria were used to detect the site of O2 evolution. He observed that the bacteria accumulated mainly in the region of the blue and red light of the split spectrum. So what, with the help of this experiment, he observed that this bacteria is accumulated not everywhere of these you can say the spectral component. It is present basically at the blue and red light. Wherever the blue and red light is available, there these bacteria, this green alga is present. Okay, and the first action spectrum of the photosynthesis was thus described. So it resembles roughly that the absorption spectra of a chlorophyll A and B. And by the middle of the 19th century, the key features of the plant photosynthesis were known, namely that the plant could use the light energy to make the carbohydrate from CO2 and water. So these two regions, the blue light and the red light, blue region and the red region of the electromagnetic spectrum is having the chlorophyll A and B there. Okay, the empirical equation representing the total process of photosynthesis for the oxygen evolving organism was then understood as carbon dioxide plus water light. It will form the carbohydrate and oxygen. So here the H2O represent the carbohydrate that is in the form of glucose, 6 carbon sugar. A milestone contribution to the understanding of the photosynthesis was that made by the microbiologist Cornelius von Lean, who based on his studies of the purple and the green bacteria demonstrated that the photosynthesis is essentially a light dependent reaction in which hydrogen from a suitable oxidizable component reduces the carbon dioxide to carbohydrate. So here you can see that this uh, 2H 2H2A and CO2. Okay, the water molecule here is that is taken, and carbon dioxide is taken in the presence of light. Okay, then what will happen? The carbohydrate is formed, right? Okay, and this 2A means that is the part of the water that is having the oxygen is coming out in the form of oxygen molecule, because you can see here the carbon dioxide is also having the oxygen, the water molecule is also having oxygen, so the oxygen is released in the process of photosynthesis is coming out in which form? So it is the coming out from the water molecule. So in the green plant, H2O is the hydrogen donor and it is oxidized to O2. Some organisms do not release O2 during the photosynthesis. When H2S instead of the hydrogen donor for the purple and the green sulfur bacteria, the oxidation product is sulfur and the sulfate depending on the organism and not the O2. So some of the organism they take the H2S, okay, and they release out S2, sulfur dioxide. So hence he inferred that O2 evolved by the green plants come from the H2O, not from the carbon dioxide. So this was later proved by using the radioisotopes technique. So here we this was the assumption and this was the hypothesis, but later this was proved by the radioisotopes techniques also. And the correct reaction that would represent the overall process of the photosynthesis is therefore 6CO2 plus 12H2O in the presence of light gives C6H12O6, 6H2O, and 6O2, where the C6H12O6 represent the glucose. Here, this is the glucose molecule, and the O2 released from the water. This was proved during the radioisotope technique. Note that this is not the single reaction, but description of the mild-step process that is called as the photosynthesis. And this particular reaction is very, very important step in the process of photosynthesis. So, can you explain the 12 molecules of water as a substrate are used in the equation given above? Okay, so you would of course answer in the green leaf or in the chloroplast based on what you earlier read in the chapter 8. You are definitely right. And the photosynthesis does take place in the green leaves of the plant, but it does also in the green parts of the plants. So can you name some other parts you think that the photosynthesis may occur? So we all know that the green parts of the plant is generally there for the process of photosynthesis, but there are some other parts of the plants like you can say the green stem, some parts of the stem which are green in color, and you can also see the sepals, okay, the outer wall of the flower, that is also showing the food process of photosynthesis. So you would recollect from the previous unit that the mesophyll cells in the leaves have a large number of chloroplasts, and usually the chloroplasts align themselves along the walls of the mesophyll cells such that they get the optimum quantity of the incident light. So mesophyll cells there in the case of leaves, okay, palisade mesophyll cells and the spongy mesophyll cells, and this is actually the parenchyma cells, okay, and they contain a lot of you can say the chloroplast in them. This whole, it is called as the mesophyll cells, right? They are present in the green parts of the leaf. And when do you think that chloroplast will be aligned with their flat surface parallel to the walls? When would they be perpendicular to the incident of light? So you have studied the structure of chloroplast in class 8, chapter 8, that they are having the double membrane structure. They are having the grana, stroma lamellae, and the matrix stroma. So there is a clear division of labor within the chloroplast itself, right? The membrane system is responsible for trapping the light energy and also for the synthesis of ATP. So there the membrane is there, okay? The thylakoid membranes are there that trap the light energy, and they are also responsible for the synthesis of ATP and NADPH. That is the light reaction. And in the stroma, enzymatic reactions are taking place, and in this reaction they synthesize the sugar, which in turn forms the starch, right? So here you can see the double membrane structure of the chloroplast, outer membrane, inner membrane, and you can see there are so many thylakoids stacked one above the other, and it is forming a grana region. You can also see the two grana region is also combined, or you can say having the attachment with the help of the stroma lamellae, right? You can see the liquid substance that is present in the chloroplast, that is called as a stroma. Many ribosomes are also present here, and these ribosomes are of ATS type. ATS type, that is a ribosome that is found in the case of the prokaryotic cells. There are so many starch granules and lipid droplets are also present here. So the former set of the reactions, since they are directly light driven, are called the light reactions, right? So in the presence of light, there are so many reactions that is occurring in the presence of light only. So they are called as a light driven reaction or the photochemical reaction. The later are not directly light driven but are dependent on the products of the light reaction, that is ATP and NADH, right? Hence, to distinguish the latter, they are called as by the convention the dark reaction. But there are some of the reaction that is taking place in the stroma, okay, stroma part, and they are called as the dark reaction. However, this should not be constructed to mean that they occur in the darkness or they are not the light dependent. It doesn't mean that they are light driven reaction. It means that they do not require light for the reactions. Okay. So thank you very much for attending this session. We will have some more session to understand the other part of the photosynthesis.